my name is Marissa Valdez. I'm an author-illustrator and the recent illustrator of Ambitious Girl by Meena Harris. You're watching So Booking Cool.
So fucking, so fucking, so fucking cool.
There's so much booking cool. So listen to So Booking Cool.
Welcome to So Booking Cool. It's Joel B. Happy New Year, everyone. Today's guest was honored by the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators with the 2020 Summer Conference Portfolio Showcase Award. She is a designer and the illustrator of the highly anticipated new picture book, Ambitious Girl, by Meena Harris, the New York Times bestselling author, phenomenal woman action campaign founder, and niece of the first female Vice President-elect, Kamala Harris. Our guest is also the illustrator of the chapter book series, Esme, by Lourdes Heuer, due next year. Here with us today, she is Marisa Valdez. Stay tuned for our conversation only on So Booking Cool. Hi, Marisa.
Hi, Joel.
And how have you been doing during the pandemic and the social unrest and the election? And do you have any thoughts about any of these things?
Oh my gosh, that's such a big question. First, I've been doing all right during the pandemic. Much like everyone else, I've been working from home, but it's been a tough year for everyone. I will say that I'm very happy the election is over, and it's great to finally say that we have a Madam Vice President. That's this year has been really crazy for a lot of reasons, but that's a really great thing to come out of it. So yay for having a first female vice president, like so amazing. So yeah, it's been a rough year, but we're all getting through it.
Exactly, all getting through it. Do you feel like you've made any self-discoveries during these days or these months rather?
Very much so. I actually, you mentioned during the introduction that I'm a graphic designer by day, but I actually just left my day job, my graphic design job, to do illustration full time. So that's been a huge thing that's happened for me, and something that's come from 2020, right? I realized this year I really wanted to focus on illustration, and so that's what I'm doing now. And I feel very lucky to be able to do it as well. So.
Oh, that's amazing. Congratulations, Marissa. I'm gonna make sure that, when I do the introduction over again, that I can adjust it, to how you would like for me to include that, but that's really awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I just left like a month ago, so it's been very recent news.
Was it a decision that you wanted to make on your own, or it was advice or feedback from other people? How did you make this decision?
Yeah, so I definitely love graphic design, but my true passion is children's book illustration. So it was a goal I was always working towards to become a full-time freelance illustrator. And then Ambitious Girl came along, right? And it was actually on a kind of tight deadline, so I had to do it really quickly. And I had this choice to make to either do Ambitious Girl and leave my job, or stay at my job and not do Ambitious Girl. So it was a really tough decision, but I ended up, illustrating Ambitious Girl, and it's worked out since then. So yeah.
Yes, it has.
Yeah.
That's major. Yeah. And we're going to talk more about Ambitious Girl. Yeah, no problem, Marissa. How important is it for people to follow their true passion?
Oh my goodness. I have so many thoughts on this. So a little personal anecdote. I've always drawn. I've always really been into drawing and illustration and stuff, but for a long time, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I actually went to school for animation. I have a degree in animation. and I was a preschool teacher, and I did graphic design. I did, after school teaching as well. But I realized I wasn't very good at any of those because they weren't really the things that I wanted to do. And once I got into children's illustration, I think I've been doing well, partially because it's the thing that even if no one paid me to do it, I would like, in my soul, I still have to do it, right? So I think for anyone, even if it doesn't seem like the most profitable path, your passions, it's really important. And even if it doesn't seem like the most profitable path, you should still go that direction because it's going to be the thing that you love the most. And you can make it profitable. Like you can learn how to live off of it, which I think is very relevant for, artists and illustrators because we don't make a ton of money, right? And I think that's what pushes a lot of illustrators back. It's what makes them think that they can't do it full time or that they can't become professionals. So yeah, I think it's extremely important.
You're so talented, and anybody who comes across your work will see that. Like, just when did you realize that you had this gift, or was it somebody else who realized it and told you?
Yeah, so kind of like I said before, I've always drawn. It's been a lifelong thing. If you ask my mom, like my mom used to tell this story where before I could, walk or talk, I was holding a crayon and drawing. So it's just something I've always done. And so I don't think there was that like one time or person who said, oh, you're so talented. It was just like something I've always had to do. And yeah, I've always done. I don't know. I think even if people like, if they never said I was talented or if they never liked my work, I think I'd still do it. Children's book illustration. The first people who actually kind of encouraged me to work on that more or let me know that I was actually good at what I was doing was a couple from Houston. So I live in Houston, Texas. I went to the Houston SCBWI meeting and I met this couple, Megan and Jorge Losera, which Megan's an author, Jorge is an illustrator, and like they're the best author-illustrator couple ever, in my opinion. They're so nice. I met them at the SCBWI and we ended up getting coffee with them and their son. And they were the first ones that told me like, hey, what you're doing is actually good. You should probably try to find like an agent and you can definitely illustrate a picture book and, like you're going on the right path. So they were the first ones to encourage me and I will forever thank them for that.
What did you like to draw? And is it still what you like to draw now?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I love to draw kind of everything. I love to draw animals. I love to draw kind of fantasy stuff. But one main thing, I guess, since I was a kid, I've loved to focus on are faces and like expressions, right? People make the funniest expressions even when they don't realize they're making them. And I've always been really drawn towards that. And so children's books are kind of great for that because you have to draw lots of different expressions and, you get to draw kids making like the funniest faces or dogs making the funniest faces. It's definitely a dream come true to be able to illustrate a book with just that in it, right?
Is there a definite technique that people who like to draw and want to draw need to follow, or is it really just about marching to the beat of your own drum?
Oh my gosh, that's another really big question. I feel like, so I was classically trained. I went to art school and I got all of like my basics down, which I do think is very helpful. I will say art school is very, very expensive. So a lot of people can't afford it, especially now. I couldn't even afford it at the time. I'm still paying off art loans, right? So that's not always an option, but I do think getting like your basic fundamentals down is important, and then you can kind of go and do whatever from there, right? You can do collage, you can do 3D sculpture. That's where you can kind of then find your style. But also there are artists who are, self-taught, and they make their own stuff, and it's just like the coolest stuff ever. So it's up to you what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had a more like specific answer for you. That was kind of vague, but art's kind of vague too. So
Yeah. No, yeah, that was a really great answer.
oh, awesome.
Have you had your moment yet where you encouraged an artist?
Yeah, definitely. I've had a few people like reach out to me on Instagram, and some other places, and kind of ask for advice, and people that I kind of was surprised like that they were reaching out to me at all, because I think of them as such amazing illustrators. I'm like, why are you asking me for advice? I should be asking you for advice, kind of thing. But I've definitely helped a few people figure out like where they should be going, what they should be doing. And a few of them have gotten back to me and been like, hey, the advice you gave me worked out. And now I'm like part of this mentorship program, or I contacted this agent and they told me this. So it's really cool to be able to see that and to help people.
Do you want to share who any of those artists are, or no?
I don't know if they want me to share that.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
won't. Yeah, but I'm sure you'll be hearing good things from them soon.
Do you think that it's important for illustrators and artists and designers to be a part of a community?
Oh yeah, for sure. So I'll say that all of the good things that have happened to me in the children's publishing industry, they came because I was part of different communities, right? So I'm like a huge proponent of like joining the SCBWI, your local SCBWI, because as soon as I went to that first meeting, it's like I found my community. I didn't have a community before that, and then I went there, and it's all these opportunities open up to me. So I'm also part of an illustration critique group. I'm part of a writer's critique group, and those people have encouraged me to work on my portfolio. They've given me some hard truths too, like, oh, this doesn't look good, throw that away, which no one likes to hear, right? But we need to hear that. And then someone in my writer's critique actually encouraged me to go on a Twitter pitch, and that's how I ended up getting an agent. So I have lots of people to thank, and I think being part of a community is really important. Also, this job is kind of lonely. I think art in general can be kind of lonely. So to be able to like have that community and to be able to talk to your people, you get different ideas and you get inspired and you don't get stuck in your head, which I think can happen to a lot of illustrators.
And by the way, everyone, the SCBWI, for those of you who may not know, that's the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. So Marissa, how did you discover the project Ambitious Girl, and what drew you to be a part of it? The book by Meena Harris.
Yeah, so Meena Harris, her editor, actually reached out to my agent. The editor is Farron Jacobs. She's an amazing person, so funny, love her so much. She reached out to my agent with this project, and she had mentioned that she found my portfolio on the SCBWI's Illustrator page, and that she really liked it. And my agent then sent me the manuscript and kind of told me about the project, and I was just kind of immediately in love with it. I love any books that have girls as the main character, and a book that's all about, girls' confidence and like boosting girls' confidence and just like girl power in general. I am all over that. So sometimes there are projects where you're like, oh, maybe this could work. Like maybe I could push it in this direction. But with this, it was just an immediate, like, yes, I want to work on this.
And yeah, and usually in trade publishing, the illustrators and the authors don't usually get to interface. Have you and Meena got to meet or talk at all?
No, not really. It was pretty traditional. We mostly talked through the editor. So I would send over illustrations, and then our editor, Farron, would send it to Meena. And then Farron would give me Meena's comments back. But it was really cool to be able to, I mean, she gave great comments or great feedback. And I really, really appreciated that. And on social media, we've kind of like talked through comments, which I really appreciate as well, because I know she's a very busy woman. So we haven't been able to like meet in person, but you know, maybe one day in the future it'll be possible, potentially.
Oh yes, it's gonna happen. It's gonna
Yeah.
happen. What, what conversations are you hoping Ambitious Girl will spark?
Oh my gosh. Well, conversations just about making sure that we don't put girls down and we don't try and like limit their expectations or their opportunities. This whole book, Ambitious Girl, it's kind of based around Meena's aunt, Kamala Harris, and how people were telling her, you know, she was being too ambitious or she was being too vocal, things like that. And if you look at where she's now, I mean, first female vice president in history. So I think it's really common to kind of put girls in their place. And this book is about doing the opposite of that. I know in my life, growing up, I did have people telling me like, "Oh, you want to do this? Well, you're probably gonna, you know, not be able to do it. So don't even try." And I wasn't seeing them saying that to boys, right? It seemed like it was happening to me and a lot of other girls. And I think that's something that we need to like fix in adults wiring, right? We need to remember not to limit people because, and not to limit girls, especially because they can do a lot and girls rule the world, right? We also need to remember not to limit girls from girls of color and girls from marginalized backgrounds as well, because that's happening at an even higher rate than other groups. So it's very important now. And I think the children's publishing industry has done a better job of publishing books with, you know, girls as the main character, girl power stories. But we need to keep on doing that and really push that idea.
When people place limitations on people like young girls, as you mentioned, and girls of color and people from marginalized backgrounds, do you think sometimes that's people are projecting because they think that they couldn't do it, and then they're trying to discourage someone else, whether intentionally or unintentionally?
Yeah, I definitely do. Yes. I don't even think it's from, you know, sometimes it's not even from like a mean place that people are doing it. It's not like, oh, I don't like you. I'm going to tell you you can't accomplish this. It just, like you said, those people themselves aren't like taking those risks, or they just don't think it's possible. So they don't want other people to fail, right? They don't want these girls to fail. They don't want these girls from marginalized backgrounds. I will say some people are putting them down in kind of a mean way, but it's not everyone. I think a lot of people, especially in illustration and in our industry, they have a lot of fear of failure, but we should, you know, teach girls that it's okay to fail and that it's okay to take risks. And if you don't take risks, you're never going to accomplish your goals. You know, you have to take those risks to get to where you want. And even if they're really big risks, right? If you want to be an astronaut, like you're going to have to work really hard and take really big risks to get there. But it's totally possible. And you know, maybe the next female astronaut is a little girl out there and she just needs someone to tell her, you can do this. It's okay to fail. Keep on trying.
Yes. Are you looking forward to going back to the schools that you attended and have even taught at, when the pandemic hopefully goes away, to talk about the books and everything that you're a part of, that you've illustrated?
Yes, I would definitely love to. I'm someone who loves to kind of like talk to kids, perform. I'm very outgoing. So being in this pandemic, I've been talking to, I've been giving like little lectures to my cats, but they don't seem that interested. So I'm very much interested in going back to schools and saying what I just said to, the kids at schools, because I feel like they really need to hear it. And it's something I dealt with a lot as a child. I was so afraid of failure and as an adult. So I feel like I need to get my ideas out there. I need to tell them this. Also, kids are just like really fun and really cool, and they have the craziest ideas. So to be around them again would be so much fun. I get a lot of inspiration from kids. I have two nephews that are really young. They say the weirdest stuff, and I just get like so much inspiration from them.
Well, I want to hear more about the cat lectures, but first, what what do you miss, Marissa, about being a preschool teacher most?
Oh my gosh. I think, okay, so I'll say something. I love being a children's book illustrator and an illustrator in general, and that's definitely my passion. But I think the most rewarding career anyone on this planet could have is to be a teacher. Because when I worked at an all girls preschool, and whenever I would work with the girls on artwork, or sometimes I'd help them with like math or reading, you can literally see the cogs in their head turning, right? When they get like addition, like 1+1, it's like this explosion of, just like their thought process. It's crazy. And there's so little, and they're getting like complicated math problems. To me, it's just, it's crazy that that's happening. So I guess just to be able to see them learn and to teach them something, that was, like I said, the most rewarding thing on the planet.
Yeah. Do you feel like, to your point, do you feel like teachers make more of a difference when they're doing the usual hours versus after school, or are they both making a difference no matter what?
I think they definitely both make a difference. So I did after school teaching. I just taught like pretty simple art lessons after school. And I taught at schools that had after school programs because the kids, their parents were working and they couldn't go home, right? So this is like the only place they had to stay until their parents came home from the day. So I will say having that opportunity to learn something in a situation where otherwise you'd just be like home by yourself, which is not good. That's great. I think that's definitely something that's needed. But, when I was teaching, the kids were also really tired. They'd been at school for like 8 hours. And I think there's only so much that you can get into their head before they kind of just need to relax for a while. Yeah, so it depends. I think, I'm so sorry. This is kind of why I wanted to have my headphones in, because I get a lot of spam calls during the day.
Oh, same here. Yeah.
Ridiculous.
It's out of control. Like, I get so many.
For me, it's like a different number every time. So I block them and then it's like a brand new number. I think I kind of stopped at a good spot. But what I was saying is, I think teachers, it's good to have teachers there, even if they're not necessarily like teaching math or reading or writing. As long as they're there to support and encourage the kids, yes, it's definitely worth it, whether it's during the day or after school.
Love that. I love that. How necessary is it for creatives to be on social media? And how do you feel about social media in general?
Yeah, oof. I have a lot of thoughts about this too. So I think if I wasn't an illustrator, honestly, I probably wouldn't be on social media. I have a hard time kind of being on social media in general. I'm not one to like scroll constantly. And if I do scroll constantly, I kind of get into like a weird mind frame where that's all I can do and that's all I think of. And I don't enjoy it too much. But I will say, as an illustrator, it's good to have your work up on social media, and you can kind of frame social media so that it works for you even if you're not a really big like Instagram person. So for me, I used to actually hate Instagram, and that's because the way I approached it, all I cared about was getting followers and getting likes. And then I was like basing my self-worth on followers and likes, right? So if I saw that one illustration got like less likes than another illustration, my whole world fell apart because I was like, I'm obviously doing worse than I did last week or something like that. So it wasn't healthy, but I've reframed myself and I now use social media as a way to interact with the illustration community. And as soon as I started doing that, it's like I totally had a different mind frame and I felt way better. So I'm on Instagram now. I post illustrations, but I'm mostly there to talk to other illustrators, to see what they're doing, and to support other illustrators because, they're also they're promoting their books, they're promoting their work, and it's a really great feeling to be able to say, hey, this is my friend. She has this book coming out. Please support her because she's like an awesome person and deserves this recognition. So I think you just need to frame your social media to fit whatever way you work or however you work.
And I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier that, being an illustrator can be lonely. So wh- what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So I mean, my job now is that I sit down at my desk every day and I work on illustrations. And like a lot of people now, they're working from home. You don't have coworkers around you. You don't have people to talk to. Usually, I will spend all day without talking to anyone. So it can be very lonely in that I have no one to talk to. Um, so I try and make sure that I talk to people fairly often. Like I said, I have the critique groups I'm part of. I'm actually a part of a couple illustration critique groups, and even if I have nothing to show for the week, right, I still enjoy being able to have like a Zoom call with them and just talk to them. And if I have feelings about a certain illustration that I'm doing, like, oh, I don't think this is working out, I can voice it to them rather than just kind of leaving it in my head to stew over and um, yeah, to just kind of stew over. I know sometimes like if I'm in my head for too long and I can't get my opinions out, I'll start thinking kind of bad thoughts like, oh, I'm not a good illustrator. Oh, I'm not doing this right. Oh, no one's ever going to hire me, right? But if I'm able to voice those opinions with my friends, then they're able to say, you're just kind of going through a rough spot. You can get past this. And that's so encouraging.
It's great to be able to talk to your peers and stuff. Are you also able to talk to people in your life who are not a part of publishing or, the writing critique groups that you're a part of? Is it easier to talk to people in the industry about these things?
Yeah, I will say most of my friends and most of the people that I interact with are illustrators or artists of some kind. So maybe I'm not the best person to ask that question to, but it is really great to be able to talk to my peers. Like I said before, this is something that I'm incredibly passionate about, and being able to tell someone oh, I just bought this picture book. What do you think of it? Have you read it? And kind of not being thought as crazy is great. An example is when I worked at my graphic design job and we were in office, we would have meetings every once in a while, and they kind of left open the meetings at the end for everyone to just talk. And I remember talking about one of John Klassen's books that had come out recently. And I was just telling them all about this book, and oh, the illustrations were so good, and oh, this happened in the story. And I realized after I stopped talking, they kind of were all looking at me like, is this grown woman talking about a picture book? so so that wasn't great, but yeah, I think it's really, really great to be able to talk to your peers. That being said as well, I also, my significant other, he's not a picture book artist. He's not in the children's book world at all. But I talk to him about it all the time, kind of whether he wants to or not, right? If he doesn't want to listen, it's too bad. I'll still talk about it.
No, you're a great person to ask that question too, because I think even what you mentioned about when you were, gushing and happy to share your excitement for the book, and they just couldn't relate to that. I mean, that's so real. That's a
Yeah.
very real thing. Um, yeah, so when you're able to find people who you can share that connection with, I imagine it means a lot. And I like what you said about you and your significant other. That's
Yeah.
great, though.
Yeah, which is another reason, Jewel, why I think like podcasts like this are so important because, when I was first starting out and I didn't have that community to turn to, I turned to podcasts. I turned to industry podcasts and they were so helpful. And that's the great thing about podcasts. You can just put your headphones in your ear and you feel like you're with friends, right? Even if they don't know you and if they'll never know you, it does feel like they're talking to you almost. So I think podcasts like yours are extremely helpful.
Oh, thank you so much, Marissa. Can you tell us anything about Esme at all?
Um, yeah, I can. The news is out for it, but there's such a long period where you can't talk about projects, right? So
Yeah.
I had to like think in my head, like, yes, I can talk about it now. Esme, I will say, is one of my favorite books of all time. Lourdes is, she's probably one of my favorite authors ever as well. I love humor. I'm a big humor fan. So like all of my favorite books are really humorful. And Lourdes like hit it on the nail with Esme. It is such a funny book. It's got such a strong female main character. I am so in love with her. And it is just a pleasure to be working on. And I think like anything else that comes out, I know Lourdes has a picture book coming out as well. So definitely keep an eye on that. Like anything that she makes from now on is just gonna be amazing because she's such a strong and funny writer. Yeah.
And are you planning to write a book one day?
Yes, yeah. So I mentioned before, I'm in a writer's critique group, and I was actually forced into the writer's critique group,
Oh,
very nicely forced into it. Someone I met at the Houston SCBWI, she was like, "You should join this," and I told her, "No, I can't write." And she was like, "No, you should really join this. Like, this is going to be really good for you." Um, so I ended up joining, and again, taking risks. I thought I would never be able to write. As a kid, I remember writing something and one of my teachers being like, well, maybe you shouldn't write, right? And that affected me the rest of my life. But as soon as I got into this writing critique group and I started writing again, it was like, oh my gosh, I had all these ideas in me that just exploded. So I consider myself an author-illustrator, and I can say that, expect a book coming out where I'm both the author and illustrator because it's something I'm very much trying to do.
oh, that's exciting. Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. So booking cool. If you could co-illustrate, Marissa, if there is anyone that you would want to co-illustrate with, who would it be and why?
Yeah, so this is a hard question. And this is such a hard question because, I'd want to illustrate books with so many. I have like favorite illustrators, and I'd love to illustrate books with them. And but I think the most interesting person I'd ever want to illustrate a book with, like where I think it would just be so much fun, I would gain so much out of it, are my nephews. I'd want to illustrate a book with kids, with my nephews. So one of my nephews is 8 and the other one is 6. And like I said before, they just have like the best and the craziest ideas, and the illustrations they make, they're so wild. Like they don't have any constraints. And so I'd love to be able to, for them to draw something and then me to just add something a little bit to it, or vice versa, right? Me draw something and then add like all their crazy ideas to it. I think that would be such a fun project to work on.
Please do it, please.
Yeah.
Do they know that you want to do this with them?
No, they don't. But they live in Arizona, so we Zoom chat every once in a while. And the 6-year-old, he actually just showed me that he made a book, right? Like a little stapled book. And I was like, cool picture book and over here really wants to see you make books. It's like my dream. So he showed me the book, and he loves Minecraft and gems. So he made a whole book about Minecraft gems. And I was like, this is amazing. And then at the end of the book, there was a tornado. And I was like, why'd you put a tornado there? And he said, because he thought tornadoes were cool. And I was like, that's genius. Like, that's just so much fun. He like wasn't thinking about, oh, this doesn't go with this story or this doesn't work. He was like, I like tornadoes, so I'm drawing a tornado. I wish I could have that kind of just be like, I like puppies. I'm gonna draw a book about puppies, but
I know kids.
That is much, yeah.
Right? That's really true. How do you want people to feel when they see and purchase your art, your illustrations, and your books?
Yeah. So this is kind of a hard question too. I guess I'd like people to kind of just feel an emotion, any emotion, right? I just want them to be able to look at my book and relate to something, or the books I illustrate, the books I write and illustrate, and for them to relate to something in their life. So with Ambitious Girl, I'd love little girls to be able to look at the illustrations and say, that's me, like I can be that. Same with my artwork, right? Sometimes I like creating really funny things. I kind of want people to look at my artwork and just laugh because something funny like that has happened to them in their life, or something similar. I want them to feel an emotion, whatever emotion they want to feel, like that's up to them. But as long as something bubbles up, that's what I'm looking for.
And on that note, Marissa Valdez, everyone. Marissa, thank you so much for coming on So Booking Cool. I really enjoyed speaking with you, and I appreciate you taking the time. And how can everybody keep up with you and the wonderful work that you're doing and stay updated and connected? And yes, Ambitious Girl, that will be coming out in January 2021, right?
Yes, January 19th, 2021, and it's in most bookstores. But I will say, if you have a local indie bookstore, definitely try and order from them because they're amazing. I know I couldn't have gotten through, this many months of the pandemic without having those local bookstores around. So definitely help them out. But you can also find me on Instagram. That's where I mostly hang out. My tag is my profile is at Marissa Arts, and that's Marissa Arts. And then you can also find anything else out about me on my website, which is marissavaldez.com. And those are the two places I mostly go.
And please, I gotta go back to this. Tell us about the cat lectures. I know you love cats, by the way.
It's mostly this, Jewel, honestly. It's like our whole conversation that we've had today, but I'm just saying it at my cat. You know, my cat will be like sleeping on my desk, and I'll think of these ideas like, oh man, I'd really like to illustrate a book with my nephews. I think that could be really cool. And they'll stare at me and then just go back to sleep. And I'm like, oh, you're the worst audience. No feedback.
I love that.
Yeah. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to not be a crazy person.
Oh no. I mean, this is a crazy world we're living in.
Yeah,
If
for sure.
anything.
It is.
Yeah, I really did enjoy. And if you could just give any advice to all the illustrators out there, rising and established alike, what would it be?
Yeah. My main piece of advice for kind of everyone, even if you're not an illustrator, is to take risks. You may not think you're good enough, but you are good enough. And if you don't take risks, nothing's going to come from it. So take those risks, y'all. They're important.
Love that. Thank you again, Marissa. Would love to speak with you again in the future, you know, especially when you write your own books and stuff, and for Esme. And thank you to all the listeners. Until next time, so booking cool.
Thanks, Joel. Bye.